Hi, this is Elaine. I made a video earlier on step 4, exercise 6, and it just, the quality is bad. And I think what it is I have to upload or upgrade my video programs, and I've been stubborn and I haven't wanted to spend the money or anything. So what I'm going to do is going to try to go over this quickly on my phone and see if I can make a video that works. Maybe the quality will be better. Who knows? So if you're following my channel, well, great. Hopefully you have this. This is the 12 Steps Workbook. It is so helpful, and you can get it on adultchildren.org. I am not affiliated with adultchildren.org, but you can get the literature. This, you can get the Big Red Book, uh, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. So that being said, I want to see if I can do this quickly because I think I have too many pictures of my granddaughter on this phone. I don't know if I can fit everything. So exercise 6 is the stored anger and resentment video. Worksheet. See, it's already, I'm just going ahead with it. Okay, talk about stored anger. All right. So I am also going to link to my exercise 7 video from 2 years ago. That would be the next one. I don't want to make it again. I think I did a good job. The lighting's not great, but it's good, I think. And you'll really understand the assignment, and I won't have to do that over again. But today I'm doing stored anger resentment worksheet. Now, I have talked to a lot of people about resentment, and I think, but I'm going to preface this video with saying that there is a idea now in our culture that it's okay to have resentment, and that we should, like, I don't know, put it out there and stand up to people and be very angry and use our righteous indignation to shame people. And I don't understand how this is helpful, but I will tell you it isn't healthy and helpful. I doubt either. I think there are some things that are really hard to forgive. And we're not even really talking about forgiveness in this video. We're just talking about how you personally can understand your resentment and your stored anger and how you can move forward. One of the things that the first step talks about is moving out of denial. And a lot of what we are looking at with resentment has to do with being in denial about what our true feelings are and about how we want to move forward. And until we come to that conclusion that we really need to work on it ourselves and take responsibility, we don't get better. No matter how righteous our indignation is, how righteous our anger is, how much we were abused. Now think about, like, the worst abuse that you might go through in your childhood. It might be hard to forgive. In fact, I would not pretend to say you need to do that. But I would say that if it's keeping you from moving on with your life and being happy and having good relationships, then yes, it is something that you have to take on. And I will tell you, those parents that raised you, if they were not functional and they themselves, let's say, haven't gone through a program like this, or they're dead, you can't really have them fix it for you. And do you really want other people to fix things for you? I don't think so. I think you want to be able to, like, grab the bull by the horns and say, this is my life and this is how I want to live it. And so storing anger, I don't think it's good. But we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm going to give you 2 examples. If you look in the workbook, it is on page, the little chart that you want to make. It is on page 86 and 87, I believe. Yeah, 86 and 87. I like what it says here. It's in ACA, we want to lift up resentment and see what is underneath. We believe resentment is stored anger caused by innumerable losses as a child. Such loss creates grief, appearing as depression in addition to creating stored anger. We will cover grief work in step 5. So step 5 is where we're really going to deal with um, how we go forward. Right now, we're just making inventories and lists. So whatever it is you think about holding on to anger, um, there's a court system for certain kinds of things, and we try to get redress. And I think it's important that we do that. But at the same time, there are many, many things that we actually have to take up the burden ourselves. And there isn't anything wrong with that because it makes our life more informed and really more beautiful when we can handle things. So you want to make a chart for yourself in that like wiring notebook that you get yourself, or maybe open a document on your computer. And you want to have 4 columns for this. We have lots of things with columns. I'll stand up and you can see. Okay, so you're going to put down what you resent. You can talk about the cause. Actually, it's 5 columns, sorry. The effects, and those effects can be like immediately after whatever happened, and then how they cascaded on throughout your life and up to the present day. We can talk about your reactions. This is like your emotional reaction, perhaps in the present to that resentment. And finally, your inner child's reaction. Because your reaction is like it rings the bell of that child reaction. The thing that you felt as a kid, you probably feel it again. It's probably very similar. It's stored in there, but it manifests differently as an adult. As an adult, like it said, depression. You may have lifelong depression, and you don't even know why. You just think there's a defect in you. And actually, no, it's these things that are stored in there, these memories and these beliefs that we have about ourselves. So when something happens, and it might resemble that some things in our childhood, but we are in denial for a long time about that. And then we react in certain ways. And it can cause all kinds of problems in our social life, and our personal life, and in our ability to, move forward or set goals for ourselves. So I'm going to give you 2 examples, not exactly perfectly relating to my childhood, but pretty close because I can speak more honestly about that. So here's the stored anger there. Okay. One of them was I felt that my education was interrupted. So I'm going to talk about why I have that resentment, because I still have it. And I've retired and everything as I was a teacher. So, it seems like I tried to do everything I could to address that like interruption and lack in my education. But when you don't have functional parents, when you have a dysfunctional household, a lot of things can happen to disrupt your education. And this has a lot of effects. In my case, I missed a lot of school. And the reasons I missed a lot of school, ill health, but mostly I didn't want to be at school. I didn't want to be at school because my parents didn't care for me as they should have. I didn't go to school with clean clothes or even clothes that were not wrinkly. I went to school sickly and weak, and sometimes I stayed home to care for a sibling, or I stayed home to care for my caregiver who couldn't care for herself. So that was something that interrupted my education. It had a lot of other effects on my life, but my mother raised me in the first 6 years of my life. She was always teaching me. I think she wanted to be a teacher. She never did, but she was very literate. She was very well read, and she she read to me, she taught me vocabulary, she corrected my grammar, she taught me nursery rhymes, she taught me stories. And I have to say that, I really, really love to learn. And then about second grade, maybe a little bit like later half of the first grade to second grade, things began to go downhill at home to where I didn't have the things I needed to support my education. And so when I would go back to school, I would be behind and I would have missteps so that like whatever they were teaching, I missed whatever was before that and I felt lost. Sometimes the teacher shamed me. There was one teacher, like I can't remember all the names of my teachers, but I can remember the one that shamed me and also my favorite one. But the one that shamed me, I'll never forget the moment and how it felt. And I felt resentment, not just because of what she said at the time, but I felt resentment because I felt like, okay, who's looking after me? Like, doesn't anybody realize I've been absent? Did they inquire about what's going on at home, or did they say, "Oh, that's none of our business"? So I felt resentment, and I always felt behind. And then when I went into high school, I was okay in certain subjects, but in other subjects, I really struggled. And I felt the same thing. My caregivers were good people, but I think the idea that I should be, like some of the holes should be filled in because I really wanted to go to college. And I did. I went to college, and my college was fine. Actually, I got what I needed from my college. But as I grew up, I realized like I had emotional baggage about status, about like, should I have chosen something more intelligent? Should I have gone to a better school? Did I miss out on activities and social connections and stuff like that? Uh, so sometimes we take care of things in our adult life. Like I went on to be a teacher. I think I was a good teacher because I could reach certain students that had similar background to mine. And I really enjoyed the process of it. And I'm sure I was sometimes that bad teacher, because it's easy to forget. I don't want to be the one who causes another person to feel shamed, but I certainly did. And even in spite of everything, things coming out well, it was a resentment that I stored. And I had to kind of rethink all that. I had to tell a different story, not a lie, but I had to look at it in a different way, which is like what I said, where I chose to teach, how I reacted with my students had a lot to do with my upbringing. And so that's my reframe of the story. Okay, the other thing, and this was very much related to the first one, was I was malnourished. And that had to do with the same stuff. That when your caregivers are not able to care for themselves, they're not going to care very much for their kids. Maybe they want to, but they can't. They can't manage. They're not there. They're not present. In my case, it was as if I was by myself sometimes. And there would often be either it's bad food, poorly cooked food, or no food. And often the cupboard was bare, as in the nursery rhyme. And it was pretty miserable to go to school hungry or to go to school with my stomach like disturbed because of the kind of bad foods I ate. It was we ate a lot of, like, when we did eat, it was TV dinners that were, they were frozen, the vegetables were overcooked. I had a lot of gut issues as I got older because of these things. I ate a lot of sugar because it was comfort food. I would get an allowance. I'd take like that paper bag, that little paper bags at the store, and just stuff with candy, and we used to have penny, nickel, and dime candy. And that's a lot of what I ate. It wasn't good for me. I did not thrive with the kind of food that I ate. And I think that also contributed maybe to not learning as well in school because I had brain fog and all these things that are associated with too much sugar. So, um, I would say, let me see. So I've been working like my whole like last 10 years on my health, trying to undo some of the harms from this poor diet of mine and also from other kind of medical mistakes that happened in the last few decades. So um, it's it's one of those things that I really resent because I think about I can't go back. I can't fix that. I can't get myself better food back from back then, I have to just do what I can now. And well, I'll tell you, both my parents have passed away. There's nobody to fix that for me. Even if they were alive, they wouldn't be able to go back in time and fix those things for me. And the resentment, I might be entitled to resentment, but it really doesn't do me any good, especially if I can do better for myself. So let me see. So when you have resentment, and I'm not putting down like some of the worst things that I have resentment over, but certainly those are things that I have stored, and they come out in different ways. And sometimes they make me a bitter person, and I don't want to be a bitter person. I want to be somebody who does better for myself. So, one more thing I want to say, because I'm going to make this a very short video this time because it's on my phone. Um, I like to talk about the reparenting, and I think there's more of that coming up in the workbook, but I like to get to that quicker because I think this is difficult. Step 4 is difficult. It's very, um, some of it is really jarring trying to dig this stuff up and look at it. Some people say, well, why do that? Don't do that. Just like leave that in the past. The past is the past. No, the past is present and we feel things. We have emotions that we don't even realize they're part of what we felt before. How did I feel at school when I wasn't caught up with my lessons, when I was way behind, when I had missteps, when I just did everything wrong, when I was shamed? I felt confusion. I felt kind of loneliness because you end up being not the group that did the right thing. The kids that did their homework and are getting it, you're not that group anymore. You're just kind of over here. You're one of the bad kids. And so it's lonely. It made me feel bad about myself. Like, I didn't really blame my parents necessarily back then. I kind of sensed it that if I'd had better parenting, but it was more that I thought I was deficient. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with my brain. I can't think well enough. And, I forget things and stuff. Well, I realize now that I probably would have been just fine with the right parenting. It wasn't some deficiency in my brain. But now sometimes it's something will trigger this about food. I'll have feeling I worry about food a lot. I feel this food insecurity. I drink raw milk. I just I like it. It doesn't disturb my stomach. Every other kind of dairy product always disturbed my stomach. So when I discovered raw milk, and I don't drink a lot of milk, but I put it in my coffee and stuff. When I went to the store just this afternoon, they didn't have it. And it was like kind of angry about it because it's like, I'm trying to repair my gut and you don't have it at the store anymore. So, yeah. And I, boy, sometimes I just go off. I get really upset. And we do it two ways. We sometimes push it on other people in the present, which we shouldn't do. And it's not always their fault. And then we also internalize things and we feel depressed or we feel um, stressed, okay, because we store that stuff. All right, so what do you want to do? I'm going to say this a lot, you want to become your own loving parent. Now, how can you do that in the case of like having a vacation, interrupted education, or having not enough food to eat? How do you fix that? Because that's still in there. It's still in there. Inner child is still manifesting those feelings at times. So, well, becoming your own loving parent means you can parent yourself. You can even parent yourself for those things in the past. Okay, so we want to do that in the future. We're to treat ourselves like we had hoped a parent would treat us. Be attentive to our needs, and be like compassionate and honor and respect and take time for ourselves so that we can heal. And we can always also do things in a very concrete way. For instance, I can make myself a good meal, a healthy meal, or something that nourishes me, not sugary or starchy, something that I know is going to be good for me. But I can think of it as parenting. I can think of it as doing this for myself to take care of myself better than I was taken care of as a little child. And in this way, I can have this dialogue with myself about here's your food, and I hope you enjoy it. And I got this special kind of, artichoke at the store or whatever. And to make food, it's a celebration. It's an honor to, it's from the earth. It's for us, right? And I don't want it to just be something that's not treated with respect, like a TV dinner. Sometimes we need those, we're in a hurry, but I think when we honor like ourselves, our childhood needs to be honored, even though much time has passed. And so that's one way to do it. Or take a cooking class so that you can be a good cook, even if like mom or dad wasn't. As far as education, you can learn new things. You never should stop learning, but you should think of it as like, what would my inner child like to learn? What did she miss out on that was sort of all the other kids were doing that was fun or was useful? Maybe take a class at community college, or even through the community center or something like that in your in your community. And so that's a way to reparent yourself. If you think about it that way, how can I be my own loving parent? And these are ways that you can do it. Now, I forgot I was going to put this in my video. I don't think I did this last week. I don't know. But I found this letter that I wrote. I wrote to my therapist because I couldn't get a hold of her and I was in crisis mode, and it's probably 20 years ago or more. Um, and so I was very much into writing journals. So this time I typed a journal, but it was in the form of a letter to my therapist as if she were there so I could get some stuff out of my system. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, whatever. She's not there to read it. So I responded to my own letter to her, but I responded as a loving parent. And I addressed each thing because it was kind of about childhood. And I don't know, it just about made me cry because I thought, wow, wouldn't it have been nice in those days to hear those words of comfort and of assurance, or even like, here's our plan, or here's what we can do about that. But I'm a kid, and this is a loving parent saying these things. So this is how we can heal ourselves. Stuff will still come up, those memories will still kind of stay there. But when we reparent ourselves or we tell the story differently, like in my case about education, how I, maybe didn't have the status of the Ivy League school and didn't walk in the circles of the architects and the other fancy people in the better neighborhoods, but I did a good service and actually enjoyed teaching where I did and with my experience because I understood those children. So there was something good, let's say, to come out of my experience. So I want this experience for you in step 4 to be as positive as you can. It is a hard road to do these exercises, and it can feel so heavy, and you need to take those gentleness breaks. But you can also do these things after each of these exercises and think of yourself as reparenting yourself and forgiving yourself for those ideas you had about not being good enough and being ignorant or whatever it was, or even just letting your sickness define you. So that's all I have to say. I am kind of excited because maybe um, maybe I have enough room for this video on my phone, and I could just upload this and delete the other one that didn't come out so good. Well, thank you so much, and please like and subscribe if you like this content, and we will meet again next Friday, and I'll be starting on, I guess it's exercise 8. So we'll try to get through 8 through 12, and then I believe we're done with step 4, or nearly done with step 4, and we can move on to step 5. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.